Yo! Old man Anton here on his 35th birthday. I know, right? First big number year that no one cares about. Anywho, as a result of trying to not actually work for the most part on my birthday, there's no update this week, but I did decide that I wanted to go over a couple things that I've been making some progress on this past week in relationship to Taken Hold that I thought a whole bunch of you would find exciting. I've covered a few of these things on my stream in the past, last month, but they've evolved a bit from there. So today, basically what I want to do is talk about how loot and equipment is going to work in the Taken Hold rework, and how your sort of starting equipment is going to work, as basically the mode is going to be getting a sort of character loadout system. So let's actually jump into the Unity editor and take a look at it. All right, so here we are over in the rework scene of the classic Taken Hold level. You'll notice that the layout is pretty familiar to what you've been playing with. I've tried to approach this rework a little more conservatively in terms of retaining the core layout and what people find enjoyable, while migrating over the stuff that really worked from the containment scene. And that primarily is a better hold point layout, giving you a little more space, making it so that instead of being hit from every conceivable direction all of the time, that you primarily have one or two adjacent sort of angles of threat, which is incredibly important, especially for folks who don't have a VR setup where they can turn 180 degrees really rapidly all the time. And so, yeah, so you'll notice that certain hold points have been, like a couple of the small ones were removed, like that little 2x2 one with the little plinth where you just lob grenades down. It was just silly. Bots couldn't handle the vertical difference. So that's been sort of merged with this point here. Pretty much every hold point has been given on at least one dimension a little more space. And note, in what you're seeing here, I have not placed all of the defensive cover yet. So while the sandbags are in, all of the concrete barriers have not been replaced. So don't think that this is all going to be wide open space. But yeah, so everything's been sort of given a little more breathing room so that you have more room to sort of move around, get different cover based upon where you're getting attacked from, with a few more sort of secondary paths. But generally speaking, keeping the layout of the map very similar. Along with the rework, and this is something that is more important for future Taken Hold maps, because the system is being built such that it isn't just tied specifically to this scene, but that I can put it in other scenes, is when I was working on containment, something that worked perfectly fine here, which was basically picking the next hold point randomly, sort of fell apart in a big level where you spent all this time crisscrossing the map in a totally random way, and so there was too much downtime. It broke that core loop between sort of like run to the new supply point, attack the point, defend the point, repeat. That should be a really tight experience. Your time shouldn't be wasted in between that. And when I applied that sort of random logic to a level as big as containment, it just fell apart. And so I've been in the process of authoring a bunch of, call it more constrained proc gen, in that as it generates a point sequence for you playing the level, it will still be sort of pseudo-randomly ordered, but it will be more logical, designed to sort of pull you through the level in a path, encountering interesting things along the way, instead of having to jog back and forth across the map without much to do. So yeah. The other big change is going to be the way that sort of loot and equipment work in the mode, because obviously the things that folks like about the way equipment works in Taken Hold is it's that sort of slot machine mechanic. I get to the next supply point, what did it give me? Can I deal with this? And while I want to retain that that sort of surprise element to it. I also want to make it so that you can make slightly more intelligent decisions based upon how a run is going. So say you've already acquired a weapon that you can run with for a while. You know, you don't need supply points to keep feeding you new weapons, but maybe you need another melee weapon, or maybe you need a power-up or something like that. And so the mode is now going to sort of center around a set of what are called override tokens, which are going to get each time you complete a hold point. You'll get a certain number of them, and when you get to a supply point, instead of there being an orange case there, there's going to be an interface that looks like this. Very simple, no text. It should be very, very easy to parse. With 3 icon options, we can see along the top how many override tokens we have collected, and we have 3 symbolic things that we can pick. This actually shouldn't be. Imagine that's like a rifle or something like that, with how many they cost. When you actually click on one of these, it will jump to here, where it will highlight how many of those tokens you're spending and whether you want to confirm that purchase or not. And in the case of a pistol here, what's going to happen is you'll purchase that, and then an orange case will spawn in front of you with a handgun. Or in the case of, you know, if it's a rifle image, it'll be a long case with a rifle. So, and based upon the loadout, which I'll get to in a moment, that you're playing with, you'll be fed different sorts of options as the difficulty curve sort of rises across the level. So there ends up being a bit of an eco game present now in this mode, but it should, once again, it should be the sort of thing that you can make a decision very, very quickly. For anyone who's experienced, it shouldn't slow them down anymore. It's just now, oh, I want a rifle this time. Boop, bing, dun, dun. Spent my 3 points, good to go. But allows you to both challenge yourself more in certain circumstances, but also sort of fill holes in your loadout with still a bunch of randomness. Like, this interface does still only have 3 options, so it could end up feeding you 3 things that you don't necessarily need. So there's still a bit of sort of chaos and unpredictability to it. But I'm hoping this solves the issue of folks wishing actually that more types of objects could also make their way into Take and Hold's play. So this will hopefully make it so that as you're playing, you'll be able to use more attachments, possibly some of the more goofy toys, and certainly a wider range of the melee weapons. So to go with that, with some help from some friends, I've also been putting together some better tools for what I would call sort of like constraining the procedural generation more intelligently. So I kind of got this about halfway right in the version of Take and Hold that is in the game right now. But basically the system by which I had sort of spawn pools that you select from the interface, default, modern, Wild West, random, I built about half smart for the game in that it could auto-populate from the objects in H3, so it automatically got the new objects, but it wasn't super configurable. It now is. So I can now create all of these different rules-based spawn pools that basically generate based on tags and properties of objects, and then I can feed those into essentially a pool list where there's all of those different tables, what their cost, what essentially an item from that table costs in terms of override tokens, what level that table can appear at, minimum and maximum, and how rare it should be. And so this will allow me to really author differentiated sort of sets of equipment that can appear and different sorts of difficulty curves. So there could be a loadout and a spawn pool that's a little more oriented towards beginners. There could be one that sort of like falls off into a drought halfway through, so you've got a bunch of richer equipment choices at the beginning, but then after that the system gives you very few things, or only gives you grenades, or only gives you what have you. And will also allow me to put it to better support play styles and modes in this for people who want to play without spawn locking. So I'll be able to generate pools that are entirely about giving you more magazines over the course of a run, or more grenades because they'll be one use only, and still having that feel right and be balanced. And obviously building better tools like this, especially for ProcGen, always helps you iterate on balance faster, which has always been something I've not been great at. So yeah. And then lastly, the other sort of exciting thing about this is that I've committed to the idea of doing sort of starting character loadouts. Basically, before you jump into a round of Take and Hold, you're going to like pull out like a software, I'm probably gonna have it as a physical object, a software module that has a character on it that will determine what your starting equipment is, which one of these pool tables you are playing with. So like an example, this one is just the classic loadout that is replicating pretty close to how Take and Hold functions now, in that you'll start with a pistol caliber standard capacity weapon of some kind, a one-handed melee weapon, and a single health power-up. Let's say, and that'll be using the standard pool, and that's sort of what defines that loadout. There'll then be a bunch of other different sort of loadout characters that you'll be able to unlock and play as that will offer different sorts of challenges. So there'll be a set called Modern Meat Shoots that are more like if you just want to start with like a modern SMG, modern automatic handgun. If you want to play more as like a sniper from the, let's see, yeah, Lieutenant Long Range Swanson here starts with a modern bolt action and a pistol. Field Agent Jackie Hoff starts out with a pistol, a suppressor, and I think, did I throw in? I think I threw in, yeah, a smoke grenade. So there'll be a whole bunch of different ways that you can start out that are pre-configured. Obviously, you will still be able to play with the item spawner if you want. That will itself be a character loadout that you can start as. But the whole point here is to provide you with just a whole bunch more interesting constraints for your run, and each of these will have a high score table associated with them, so you'll be able to compete with other people in terms of seeing how well you do as these various loadouts. So that sounds probably like enough blabbering. The next sort of step is, now that this system is in place, what I need to basically build the data structure that determines basically difficulty in terms of how SOSIGs spawn into this scene, how many of them spawn, what the cadence is, where they come from. That's something that, once again, in the current Take and Hold is almost balanced, but not quite. So I'm going to be building myself better tools to do that, and actually making sure that it's something that I can aggressively test in context in every spawn point to make sure that they feel right and that it has the right amount of reactivity. So hopefully the next time I show you some stuff in this scene, it will actually be some fighting with SOSIGs with some cover in place, so that you can get a sense of what this is going to feel like with our more advanced agents in place. Anywho, I'm going to get back to the rest of my relaxing, bacony day, and enjoying my birthday in the sun for a bit. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you soon. Peace.